So, if you watched the last video, we was on a road trip. We ended up at International Park here in Fort Wayne, Indiana. These guys are going to give us a show around the shop. It's a little tight in here, but man, there's some cool stuff. So, I guess we'll show you guys around. Alright, so I'm here with Ryan now, and he's going to talk about all these trucks that I know a little bit about them, but nothing compared to what Ryan can tell you. So I'm going to stay behind the camera, and I'm just going to follow him and let him talk, and I may ask a question occasionally. And if there's anything you want me to ask Ryan later, leave it in the comments below, because I've got his number now. He's in trouble.
Whoa. I got one thing to add.
One thing.
You're not talking in this video?
Nope.
That's first.
I got plenty of talking to do, don't worry. So my name's Ryan Duvall. I'm the founder and CEO of Harvester Homecoming in Fort Wayne, Indiana. I had an idea to sort of, when I got my Scout, my second Scout of my life back in 2019, I started talking to some people and decided to have a truck show and bring some internationals here. And a lot of people were interested around here. You know, this is where they built the Scouts, and they built more heavy-duty trucks here than anywhere in the world. They were building 205 heavy-duty trucks a day when they closed this plant up. And so I stood out there on August 10th of 2019, the day of our one-day show, and we hoped to have 200 trucks and 2,000 people, and I stood out there and like wept as I looked down the Lincoln Highway line with the internationals, and we had over 600 trucks and 12,000 people show up.
That's awesome.
For a show that we had 6 months to plan, so it was pretty amazing. And now we are the caretakers of, it's hard to say this, International Motors, which used to be Navistar, which used to be International Harvester, of their collection of trucks. So for example, this is one of the trucks in the International collection. This is a World War II era semi-tractor and a club car trailer. So it was actually a bus at one time that the Red Cross used to divvy out rations during World War II. They converted it into a trailer, but it is signed by World War II, Korea, and Vietnam War veterans from all over the country. And they weren't just, you know, they didn't just go to the VFW and pick up some drunks to go sign it. General Norman Schwarzkopf's signature is on the side of this. Gentleman, Ken Heckler, who did a movie called The Bridget Remagen, he's on here, and that was later a movie, The Bridget Remagen. On the other side, one of the original Band of Brothers. And if you just, it's a moving piece. You got Iwo Jima, Pearl Harbor, D-Day. On the other side, there's 5 brothers from Northampton, Virginia, the Huco brothers that served during the war together, and they've all signed it. And it's a piece of, one of the best pieces of military history in the world, I think. And we're going to be anxious to show it off in our new museum, which we should be making an announcement on soon. We're going to have, we've got more trucks than this, and I apologize for being messy, but I tell people I play Tetris in here because we got to pack these trucks into a temporary space and make room for them. But yeah, we can just walk along and take a look. This is one of the cooler trucks in here. This is a 1956 Travelall. So it's a more or less a station wagon, sort of the precursor to everyone's SUV, or what the Scout became. But the funny thing about this is I call it the child death trap, because you see it's got 3 rows of seats but only 2 doors. And if Dad rolled that into a pond, they better hope they get the slide windows open or the back hatch open. I don't know that it was you know, approved by anybody to be this way, but this is one of the cooler features. Is if you look at this front seat, when you lift the front seat, it swivels off to the left. So
that's cool. It does kind of fold this way.
Yeah, so you can the kids can get in and hopefully not go into a pond and, you know, not be able to get out. But it's just a beautiful truck. And this, you know, pretty much a lot of these trucks came to us after sitting for way too long and didn't run and hadn't been maintained. So we've done our part to get everything running. Now this is the ironic piece. And this is a EMV. This is an electric medium duty first prototype, and we call it the Turtle, and you can't see, but on the front there's no grill. They did that on purpose because it doesn't need air, but yet it has air conditioning that doesn't work because it doesn't get air. But on the back of this, we're displaying the 1906 Auto Buggy. This is the first vehicle made by International Harvester Company in 1906, but this is literally the first vehicle International Harvester ever made. This is the prototype, number one.
So that's not a production model, that's a prototype.
Well, it's, I guess, number one. It's the same. From what I understand, it's the first one they ever built. So it's the first truck International Harvester ever built. If you notice on here, it has 2 rows of seats. I don't know if you can see that. What they noticed was that people were taking that second row of seat out and using it to haul stuff, deliveries, things like that. So a few years later, back here, they came out with the Auto Wagon, and that's essentially the first truck, because there's a truck bed on it. And I've got pictures of these in like New York City, stacked 20 feet high with stuff. So this is essentially the first truck after the buggy, and it's on our. This was a Canadian, Chatham, Ontario truck plant. This was their engineering mule. It says R190 on it, which it was when it started. Well, then when the big 8-cylinder motors came out, which you can see on the other side, the V549, they wanted to test it down there, so they put a V hood on it, put that big engine in it. So there's people who think it's got the wrong badge, but that's actually the original badge. And they were essentially the same truck, just different drivetrains. And so the reason, because it started as a R190 and then became a V549, or just and it's a beautiful truck, and we can display an old truck on an old truck like that. It's
oh yeah,
really cool. But that's not this black one's not the only first we have. We'll get to that in a minute. But
so work my way back around here.
And we got a 1960 R model, R185. They're dusty right now because I haven't been in. We just had our show a few weeks ago, and this beautiful R model truck that we take out and go places with. Like I made the joke, what's the Pirates' favorite international? It's the R. This is the truck that got this thing all started, the one that my dad bought for me that made me decide to do a show. A 76 Traveler. Not the original paint scheme and not the original paint color, but it's got the same sort of rally feel to it, and I think it fits in really well. And then back there to the left, yeah, now see, look at all the stuff. I had stuff I wanted to show yesterday. These are our dune buggies, our dune rides from Mac Woods Dunes in Silver Lake, Michigan. They've been doing dune runs up there since 1938. Started out with Model Ts, and eventually they came to this. They were using internationals because if you needed an international truck, or needed a truck to make a big dune runner out of, you know, internationals were top of the line. So they would bring these back from Springfield as just fenders, a hood, and a chassis. And I met a gentleman there who actually drove this back from Springfield to Silver Lake, which is about an 8-hour drive, and he would sit on a milk crate and drive it back, just bare chassis. And I got a picture of him on the sign for it.
That's crazy.
And he was one that stretched the chassis. They use Ford vans now, or Ford van chassis now, and Ford pickup bodies. But they donated these two to us, and we use these for tour rides and such during the show. This is my other Scout. This is my daughter's 1962 Scout 80, which is actually powered with a small block Chevy, but that's because I didn't want her to try to drive a 152 in traffic. Tow truck out of Philadelphia, or out of Pennsylvania area, Super Service Garage. It's a really cool old R, well, it's actually an L model with an R hood. We got a Transtar 4200 that's ours. This was just donated before our show by a gentleman, Chuck Anderson, down out of
oh, it's got the big winch on the back of it.
It was a tow truck originally, and I've got pictures of it as a tow truck. R200, it really runs nice. It's just a beautiful truck that was donated to us as part of our collection. Ozinga Transport, that's the DC-405, otherwise known as the Emeryville truck. Made in Emeryville, one of the first cab overs. And they made so many of those back when they were running popular that they built some of those in the back of the Scout plant here in Fort Wayne. they had they had such a demand, they started building them there too. So this one was built in California, but there were some made here. And that sign right there will tell you what the other first is, right there, FC 501. First production Scout built in Fort Wayne, Indiana in December of 1960. A gentleman named Phil Coonrod, which international people know. He's been he worked at the Scout plant until it closed in 1980. He was a third generation international employee here. The plants here were open from 1923 to 1983, and they generation after generation, and that's why the museum is going to be here. I got a lady that is a volunteer here whose great-great-grandfather started here in 1925. 14 family members over 4 generations followed her. But Mr. Coonrod had this truck. He'd acquired it from a guy who worked at the engineering plant that took it home with him. And it had the original, well, the motor it left the plant with. Original chassis, original transmission, axles, one axle, one of them was gone. But the only piece of the body was was over there on the other side was the core support. And I wanted to put it in the truck when we restored it, but I lost that because they were worried about, how rough it was. But we put it on display and cleared it so you can see what that, Scouts were known to rust a little bit, so.
So where do you get your sheet metal from?
Well, this was actually a donor body out of California.
Okay.
And it was a solid, and that's people come to me all the time and like, look, I've got an engine. I just need a perfect Scout body to put in. I'm like, yeah, good luck, because if somebody's got a perfect Scout body, they can find an engine. Go up with it. Yeah. That one was, we couldn't find it. I didn't know that until recently. I thought the door was locked, but we got the right hand handle on the left hand door. But yeah, I started tearing the engine down to get it rebuilt, and we had a bunch of companies on that sign that helped make this come to fruition, and we did a live shot on TV and started it up a few years ago. And Phil was worried it wasn't going to start up right away because, it hadn't been, we thought we were going to have to prime it and all sorts. He didn't really have it warmed up, but man, it started on first crank, and it's been all over the country. It was down along with my Scout, went down to Franklin, Tennessee for the unveiling of the new EV Scout they're building. They took those both down there and flew me and Phil down there to be a part of the celebration and tell them a little history like I'm trying to tell you. But no, we're in the process of getting the museum started. You go to harvesterhomecoming.com. Facebook is probably the best place to keep up on everything because it's just more in tune with our people, and it's a lot easier to update that than the website. We are a 501c3 nonprofit, so donations are always welcome. You can do that through harvesterhomecoming.com, Facebook. We got Instagram also, which I also don't keep up as well as I should. I don't TikTok though, although I probably should start, but I don't know.
No, I started TikTok and I quit. It ain't worth the hassle.
You do the dance and everything?
No, we don't dance. Look at Kagan, he's not built to dance.
Well, you can probably get a lot of views though if you guys do. But yeah, so we're just trying to, we've got a whole office full of stuff. We got families bringing us stuff that you wouldn't believe. We've got probably 70 trucks in the collection now. They're not all here. We take care of internationals, but we've also got several of our own. And just layers of history. I did a documentary that aired on PBS last year called Truck Town. So if you've got a PBS membership where you can watch stuff online, look for Truck Town. It was rated as the bronze medal international award last year for long form documentary. So the bronze medal winner for the world. And it was a very special piece where there's 5 people that are in that movie that have since passed. Something I started after our first show because I had the thought that we need to get some of these stories on tape. And just like this, you got to get stuff on tape because it'll live forever that way. And hopefully this museum will live forever and we'll get it going soon. So I loved having you guys here. And nothing better when you open the door and start getting all grinned and geeked out and act like kids, which is exactly what you guys did when you walked in here.
That's right.
You should have had the camera. I should have been holding the camera and just see your face.
Well, that might have been something if you was holding the camera.
Yeah,
I'd have been like squirrel. I'd been like over here and over there. And
which is fine. That's what, people's faces light up when they walk in and see these R models, and it's just great. But yeah, so what else can I tell you? I guess I've tried to tell you enough stories. But
can we look at some of the stuff in the back here?
Yeah,
around the back?
Look at more. I don't know how much time you want to take, but we got display engines, DT466. We got a talking robot that'll lie to you about max force engines, tell you how good they are.
Oh, right here, hold on.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I had beer in it till yesterday. But it's our old 1950.
The old International. I got a bottle of water out there and it's cold.
Yep, 1950. Got it out of a shop on the plant grounds here. That the guy had it for a couple decades and hadn't done anything with it. He said, well, you guys probably get something done with it. Brought it back here and plugged it in and started cleaning the outside, which was filthy. And within 20 minutes, the water was cold. So, but that's why they couldn't make those for very long. You know, it's like now you buy a refrigerator the last 10 years, you're lucky.
Yeah, you don't
just go buy
need a new one.
Well, nobody works on them anymore because they're all disposable. Well, they make one that's lasted since 1950. I got a freezer the same way, 1952 deck freezer that my dad went and got it out of a guy's garage. It was a deal on Craigslist. If you get this out of my garage, you can have it. And we got it, and he took it home, and he was tired from dragging it because it's heavy. You know, it's massive. So I plugged it in, threw a water bottle in it, and he went out the next morning frozen solid. 1952. It had just been in the guy's garage. He didn't know it worked. I assume he never tried, but
Assumed it probably didn't.
yeah, and it did, and it still works. And yeah, so these are a couple like this pickup. It's nice little. It's not ready to be displayed yet, but I love the camper that was bought original with it. This was donated by a brake engineer for International. It was his brother's. This back here is probably the rarest of all of it. So there's only a few of these left, and this is the only one complete right now. It's a Snowstar. So it's a 1210 four-wheel drive pickup.
Okay, I remember reading something about that. It is actually a factory snowplow truck.
Yes, you could buy this as a package from International. They made the pickups and also 800 Scouts, which you can guess which one they sold more of.
Well, yeah.
Because, you know, for the plus, I think a lot of it had to do with the smaller, you know, been the size of this bone behind you. It's smaller truck, easier to dart around with. But they didn't sell as many of these. They only made a couple hundred of them, if that. And this is the only complete one in existence. And it needs work, but it's one of those things that what's it worth? Well, it's the only one. So I don't know what
It's kind of hard to put a price on.
The young man who had this and who's been coming here and working on it, Jordan, he had another one that he found that had a flatbed on the back, and everyone's like, why would you put a flatbed on that? I'm like, well, in 1973, when this guy got this truck from a sale at a shop, he needed a flatbed, so he put a flatbed on it, because that's the thing that's sort of hard to understand, is that people weren't thinking these were going to be...
Yeah, and now you look back at a vintage truck, you're like, oh, why would you do that? You're like, well, back then it wasn't a vintage truck.
Yeah,
it was a work truck.
Yeah, and so guys did stuff like that and not thinking it would even exist until today, let alone be there's a big Max Force engine. We got some beautiful Max Force engine. We got all this stuff. We saved a lot of it. International let us go into the Melrose Park facility up in Chicago before they closed it and bulldozed it, and we took, you can see we got stuff upon stuff upon stuff. And I apologize for the dirty shop, but it's just...
Oh, they're used to looking at my shop.
Yeah. This heavy H truck was owned by Fred Chrisman, who wrote the International Encyclopedia, several versions of it. That one, and we also have this is International's truck. It smokes white smoke like crazy, and we've also got a Scout that says it's off-site. But this is something that we retrieved. It's pretty cool. So this was in the engineering building, sitting on a shelf, and I thought it was a display. It works if I plugged it in, but we thought it was like, you know, you come in and pick your radio like you would at the stereo store. Mm-hmm. So this is first Scout. It would have been 1960 Scout AM only. Next generation Scout AM FM. Then eventually, no, here, 8-track. So these are all
the needle's the door. That's funny.
Yeah, and then you go to cassette, and then finally CD, which wouldn't have been around. This would have been the last one in 1980. But you plug it in, and then they all work. But it's just sort of a timepiece of truck radios. You could, you know.
Very cool.
Yeah, we found an old Scout 80 radio in that building, just sitting on a shelf by itself. It's like, you know, stuff's. You know, it's crazy what gets left behind when a place closes. Now this is the D-Max hot rod, and again I apologize for the dust, but we've been tired since the show. But so they took a Max Force 7 engine, which is what was in the Lone Star Semi, which we have one of those out front, and packed it into this 1939 D-Series pickup. And it was an engineering feat. There's a huge fan in the back to cool it. And like people like, oh, it's really like the instructions for driving it from International said, when you go to start, just idle to the start. If you press the gas, you'll do a burnout. And the next section says, to do a burnout, just hit the gas. And I've done that. I did some burnouts with it. I've taken it a couple places. We don't drive it much. But the funny thing about this is people are like, oh, I want to hear it. It's a hot rod. I'm like, no, it just sounds like it's a diesel. It just sounds like a semi-truck, you know. But there's posters with this in front, because the front end is sort of what they emulated to do the Lone Star Semi, which they just discontinued production of recently.
Yeah, it's a shame.
But this thing was a $450,000 build right across the street in the engineering plant. So it's the fastest and most expensive truck in the collection. And it's like something you don't want to touch. Now this, it's going to sound like I'm saying something bad, but this is exactly what we call it. One of my volunteers dubbed this. Now look here. This is the Dick Wagon. Dick Wickman Orchestra of Omaha, Nebraska. This is a 1973 Travelall 8-door done by Stageway Conversions. Stageway was a company down, I believe, in Georgia near the Florida line that did this for ski lodges, theme parks, airports, and they would, you probably remember seeing ads and stuff with them. But it's a pretty interesting. This is the first international they ever did, and yes, indeed, airplane seats. I always say people were smaller back then because they didn't have a lot of room. This would have been a storage compartment for either luggage or instruments, and in the back, I thought someone broke the windows out. But these were part of it because you didn't need, because you can't see out the windows anyway.
Right.
And so this was a storage compartment for either the instruments or the luggage, depending on what they were doing. And it also has a big truck cooling system. A little topside air.
Well, you'd almost have to have one for that much room in there.
This is owned by a company, a gentleman who's got a company in Iowa called Redneck Limos, and he has a fleet of these. This was the first international, so he wanted it to be here. The engine turns and everything, we haven't done much work on it or anything because it's not our truck yet. It will be. But he's hoping we get it running. And but he takes those trucks up to Sturgis and rents them out during bike week and makes money and takes people around in them. But anybody can rent them, but it's just kind of a cool truck. One of the people really like that truck. A lot of younger folks seem to like it. And the B140, another interesting truck because of the sticker on the side. Department of Interior, Office of Indian Affairs. So this was a truck in Utah that they worked, around reservations with, early four-wheel drive. And then behind it we've got some beautiful C models, like this bakery truck, which is almost so beautiful. It
is. It's gorgeous.
That's like someday I'll have a truck that nice. The 25 speed truck. That's the first. One of the first that was donated to us before we had any of these other trucks, and I worked through the pandemic on that 1933 B3, and you can see some of the shine I've done to it to get the patina out. You can see that fender. I mean, it looks really nice and we just sort of stopped on it because I need to get an engine for it, and I'm like, well, I need to, because there's another one just like it.
Yeah. That's
completely complete, and it's like. It's not because I don't love that truck. It's just we always thought it would be a piece kids could climb on and get their picture taken. But I also thought, man, I put that DT 466 engine in just to see what would happen. Why not? Making an EV, tear the EV stuff out of it. TransStar Semi over here was owned by Richard Rawlings. Some of you guys know him from Gas Monkey fame. You can go online to YouTube and just type, or go on Google Richard Rawlings cab over, and it's about a 15-minute video of him geeking out over that truck, but he never restored it. He called a big dealer out of Pennsylvania and said, what should I do with it? He's like, I know where it should go. So it got donated along with the Fleet Star truck we have up there, the 4200 and the Cargo Star. They were trying to do all the Star trucks. And they went through a transition here a few years ago. The gentleman was retiring and they were going to not be an international dealer anymore, just be an overall leasing place. And so he donated the trucks to us. A lot of people donating. I'm actually having to tell people not to donate vehicles or to wait because
Got no place to put
Well, I
them.
got nowhere to put them. I got other places to put them, but I also realized that I got a lot of projects. And I love old trucks that are project trucks, but the problem with a project truck is you get too many projects, you never get any done. So we're working on some things, but you know, we've got a school bus we need a good 304 or 345 for, so.
I might know a guy that's gonna have one.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I'm thinking, no, I got a good fit here, but this is kind of interesting. One of the sides. So there was a forge shop here when they opened in 23, and they would forge everything from axles to engines. They were making engines here. Now the trucks took off in such a way that they built an engine plant in Indianapolis. But if you look here, these are original forge tools used in the forge shop. So when they needed a tool to do things, a poker or whatever, they would forge them and make their own. And we've got a whole collection of those, along with the time clock from the forge shop. But it's just kind of cool. I think a lot of young kids that come in here can't fathom burning metal and melting metal and forging stuff right here, you know, making an axle right here in Fort Wayne. And, you know, that's when we made stuff. Everything was made here. And, you know, it's sort of fascinating to talk to kids about that kind of thing, because, like, I know I've heard stories of the guys that worked in there. They would be working, sweating to death on the front, but they'd have the windows open all the time in there, and there'd be snow falling on them while they were sweating. You know, it's like the front and back kind of thing. And they had someone told me there was a sign on the entrance that "Welcome to Hell," because it was a forge shop and it was hot. Yeah. But yeah, it's just sort of one of the interesting, unique things about when everything was made here. You know, it's like IH bolts. We keep them all because they made their own bolts and nuts and stuff. And
Now these factories, they'll assemble the truck at the factory, but everything's made off-site and brought someplace else.
yeah, and some of that was going on here. Traveler tops were made somewhere else, and you know, a little bit sheet metal was pressed somewhere, but you know, it was definitely a different time where everything was made right here. So yeah, we're just really fortunate to have a chance to do this with International Motors' blessings and several other big sponsors. And you know, we just love having people that love international stuff come out and take a look at it.
Well, Ryan, thank you very much, sir. I appreciate you letting us in here today and showing us around. And
No, I love having you. I just wanted to see your Lodestar. It's really cool.
see, somebody likes my truck.
Oh, I scare my wife every time because I've got 2 Scouts and a Travelall, and I'm like, I'm gonna buy me a big truck and bring it home. And she's like, I got a Fleet Star chassis that was donated to us by Penske Leasing here, and I was like, if I could get a cab over cab like that one and cut it down, I could make a little cab over and put like a travel Terra bed, like so it'd be half Scout, half cab over, which would be the perfect Fort Wayne truck. Half cab over, half Scout that covers both bases, and just have a little one. I can drive a little cab over, chop down, and I get all sorts of crazy ideas. I keep telling her one of these days I'm gonna drive home in a big truck. I'm gonna buy one. She's like, you're gonna have nowhere to keep it. I'm like, well, if the museum goes out, I love that thing. I'd love to take that home, but you know, what are you gonna do? So yeah, thank you much for coming here. I appreciate it.
And guys, if you don't mind, hit that like and subscribe. This is a one-off for us, but we gotta get back home in the same truck we drove here in. So, oh, and we got a bike show tomorrow. So, yeah.
I got parts if you need them.
Got parts? I know somebody to call if I need something.
I got a whole shop of parts I take care of too. If you need them.
Don't tell them that. Don't tell them that.
Guys, we'll see you until the next one.